computer? Okay. All right. It should be recording now.
Okay, great.
But all right. So here we go. All right. Okay. So the recording has begun. Welcome to anyone who's watching this. What we're going to talk about today was optimizing use of a digital twin, and we're going to talk about the implications regarding identity as well. So in summary, I'll go very quickly through the agenda of it. What
Okay,
is a
sure.
digital twin, and what you can get from it, what I or you can get from it, the time and money implications of achieving it if you want to have it, the limits that apply to it, what it can do, what it can't, and where to start and what best options and any action you might like to take. So that's what I'd like to progress through. Doug has been posting items in the Abundance Digital Forum for a while about this, and I'm keenly interested in it too, because I've got a background in AI and VR, same as Doug has, and I'm quite scared in a way, although I'm very much interested in AI, I'm quite scared of the stealing of identity, the possible stealing of identity, and obviously the takeover by AI to some degree or lots of degree. So these are the things we're going to talk about. Anyway, tell me some of your thoughts. Let's start off with what it is and what you might get.
So, yeah, Bruce, I mean, the reason for this conversation, I think, is I posted about the people-centered internet community that I'm part of. And a gentleman at this event that I was at, his name is Guy Huntington, was talking about identity. And he has an interesting background, this gentleman, on looking at identity, and he's posted it on LinkedIn. In fact, he talked about the cost of a crappy legal identity. And so, as we talk about what's identity, I work for Nokia, and actually I've been working, I'm on the Kansas University cybersecurity board, and one of a person I know on the board as well from T-Mobile, he does a lot with identity as well, looking at identity. So this is a problem that, we're trying to solve, as an industry. And anyway, Guy Huntington, when he posted, he wrote this blog, and he talks about, ad fraud costing $42 billion. He said systematic identity theft is, he talked about $6 billion, which I think is low, but identity theft itself. So I guess he distinguishes those two. He's like $17 billion, and then medical identity, he talks of that in the U.S. I think it is $2 billion, which I think is low as well. But anyway, he's given some lists of, the cost of identity. And, as we go more and more online, how do you prove, you're Bruce? How do I prove I'm Doug? What happens when a bank gives money to someone who says that they're me? And they're, it's like, it shouldn't be my fault that someone wants to give money to someone. Faking my identity. It's up to the bank. If they want to give money to someone, it's up to the bank to have that exposure and risk, and not to the individual. Like credit cards here in the United States, you're only liable for $50 if someone steals your identity.
Can I just suggest can I ask you whether you think the blockchain being encrypted deeply and inextricably is the answer to this? Would you guess?
Well, I'm not a blockchain expert. I've heard, that, some things about it, that it has the opportunity to be, to actually to track identity and track information. I mean, that's what the blockchain's all about. But some people think of blockchain as being more anonymous, though, it's my understanding that it isn't. So I don't know the nuances of that. But I mean, at the end of the day, the question is, how do you deal with identity going forward? And like I said, this gentleman, Guy Huntington, is someone I'm planning on reaching out in the next week or so to try to get an engagement with him on what he's written. I've been thinking about digital twins myself, both from a human digital twin and, as a physical asset, digital twin. Like if you take a digital twin of a building or a piece of art, who owns the identity, right, in the physical world, and who owns it in the digital world?
So we've got
And
two questions here. One is safe authentication, and the other question is the usefulness of the digital twin itself. For example, if you've got a building, which is a pretty accurate digital twin of a proposed building, you can walk your customers through that. They can change it without huge cost. It's a representation of the thing, and it's malleable and ductile and changeable, very changeable, where the real physical one is millions or even billions of dollars. So that's the advantage of digital twinship. The security is
right,
one
but
thing.
the question, like even a building, you know, like it's whoever owns the rights to that building, like in Hollywood, they cannot just take they can't capture, take a picture of something and use that without whoever has those rights giving that permission. And so it's all about, whether it's a physical asset or a human asset,
Yeah,
it's all about who owns the rights of that,
yeah,
that identity.
yeah. So
And
that ownership and identity are tied together. All I was
right.
doing was distinguishing between the rightful ownership or loss of ownership or theft of it and the use of the thing. I was distinguishing between the security aspect and the actual functional usefulness of the thing, whatever it be, a building, a car, or a
Right.
personal identity, whatever it is. They're both important things. To me, in some ways, the more interesting thing is what are we making digital twins of and how much we're using them. Even an Excel spreadsheet is a digital twin of some economic situation. It is not the economic situation or the budget of that company. It is a representation of it. It is a digital twin that you can manipulate and say, what would happen if we employed 25 more people? And you change the digital twin of that company. So, well, we can afford it. So that's the
Yeah, I would be
usefulness of it.
careful of making digital twin too broadly, like a copy of
Yeah,
the
right.
spreadsheet.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, like the definition, like if you Google digital twin, Google comes up with it's a digital representation of a physical thing or a human, right? Like it could be a biological thing. It could be you could digital twin your dog if
Okay.
you wanted.
Okay. I'll stay within those constraints
Yeah.
in the meantime.
Yeah. So, and then the question is who owns that physical asset, right? And or the physical identity, like I own Doug, right? Doug Hohulin,
Yeah.
I own,
Right.
right? You own Bruce. And then the question is okay, given that you have that ownership, I mean, that you legally have that ownership, the question then is as you digitize that into the digital world, how do you make sure you still control that and you still, you're not giving up your rights, and this goes into, we have these discussions a lot on, okay, I'm giving this data over to Google and to Apple, you click on the user agreements and you're waiving your rights that,
Right.
to all the,
That principle is evident.
yeah,
My guess is that the blockchain is the way to secure authentication. That's my guess, because it's deeply and intricately and inextricably encrypted so that you can't pretend. I don't think you can get past that. Maybe you can use it with quantum computing, but if you apply quantum computing to the blockchain, then you're in the same boat that you've got very, very reliable authentication of something. I'm being a
yeah,
bit vague there, but that's where I think authentication is going to come from
yeah,
an independent, decentralized, peer-reviewed blockchain of some kind, so that they know it's definitely, because you have just flagged in, you've just put your card to a reader, or you've just done something that proves that it is Doug that I'm talking to right now. If I really needed to be sure that I could trust you, I would ask you to do something using your reader and my receiver, your transmitter and my receiver. I would get that code and I would know from the blockchain that definitely was authenticated as you.
right. I mean, at the end of the day, for those who don't know anything about blockchain, a blockchain is just basically a ledger, a digital ledger that everyone who is part of the system agrees that this information is correct. That for every time we write it down, that block, we all as a group say this information, we all agree that this writing down the ledger, everyone agrees that yes, is correct. And then you
Yeah.
go to the next one.
it's been stored in a way that is exposed to the scrutiny of thousands of people. It doesn't have to be everyone, but thousands anyway.
Right.
So that it's indelibly marked there. It's been checked as verified by thousands of people. So it's pretty well impossible to prove that it wasn't Doug that did that.
Right.
So that's an online system called the blockchain, and that's what Doug just said. All right. So authentication of an event or anything at all, that's my guess how you do it. You do it with a blockchain. Even a quantum computer device, used one, but I think that's how authentication is going to be. One of the questions in my mind is the balance between authentication and privacy, because you may not want to be known. You might like to be able to go out in private and do things without it being followed and tracked. That's a well-known dilemma we're all facing.
Right.
You go to the supermarket. Why should they know that it's exactly you? They only need to know that it's you and that you shop at New World Supermarket. They don't need to know everything. But there can be an encroachment on privacy by well-intentioned organizations, corporations, or individuals wanting to know more about you than you're comfortable with. So that's a part of authentication too. So you'd have to have degrees of authentication.
Well, I mean, this gets into this concept of what's a digital twin.
Yeah.
Like how much of the information of who Doug is, right? In fact, I think Miku Kuka, he's part of the Singularity University family anyway. I think he talks about that the average human knows 100 million things.
Okay.
So how many things is unique about Bruce, or is just in general? I mean, how many things about you, what's your Venn diagram of the Bruce universe, right? And how much of it is the Doug universe? And, how much is known by the digital universe, and how much do I not care? I mean, I don't care that, I'll tell anyone I'm from Kansas City, right? I live in the United States.
Right. But I mean, and when you're setting up when you're setting up a computer network, you have levels of authentication depending on who you are. The CEO has got, well, I don't know, you have different rights. If you're a new arrival in the company, a new employee, you only have access to some of the stuff in there, just enough to do your job. But if you're CEO, you've got rights that give you a lot more authentication to get into, see the infrastructure, to see who's doing what, to supervise. You got a lot more power. So I guess authentication is going to be a ranked thing, and you're going to have degrees of options and opportunities to do things there, as compared with between a new employee and CEO of the company. CEO of the company should be able to access pretty well everything, and the new employee can't be totally trusted like that. And indeed, it's not necessarily that they know about the details of the server and the infrastructure or the testing program that's taking place in the information center at the moment. So there will be degrees of authentication, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, for a company, that's true. And like, even for as an individual, and that's who I'm speaking for right now.
Right.
It's like, how much do I share to anyone? And then I don't share my bank account numbers with anyone.
Okay. Now, let's get on to, having talked a bit about authentication, we can continue to talk about that. Let's talk about the uses of digital twins. The two examples that have come up in this conversation have been an individual, you or me, and also a building, such as a new architecture that's being put in by Michael Morrissey down in downtown San Francisco. Hasn't been built yet, but he's built a digital twin of it before he even put bricks and mortar there. So there's a digital twin of that. There's also maybe a digital twin of my e-bike. Somebody wants to engineer a better one. So you can have those digital twins. Those are examples of digital twins. But let's for a moment look at why Doug or Peter Diamandis want to have a digital twin. What are you going to do with it? Let's say, never mind authentication of whether it's really you or not for the moment. What are you going to do with that twin?
Well, like, for instance, I give presentations, and I was joking that, maybe I'll have my digital twin do a presentation for me. So, you know, like right now you can, there's programs out there like Hour One and what is it? Soul Machine, where if they take 10 to 15 hours of video of you, it can mimic, like if I give a script of what I wanted to say,
Okay.
it will read as if it was me.
Okay,
Right.
but the essence of that, the difference between that and you just doing a YouTube video saying something, is that it can respond to the audience.
Well, I can respond. The question is, can it respond? Right. One is just to read off a script, right? You know, that's one.
The YouTube video cannot respond really real time to the audience.
That's correct.
So your digital twin goes up on the screen, and you're, by the way, you're having a holiday or a barbecue somewhere, but this digital twin is able not only to deliver the stuff that you have prepared for it. This is a presentation about 5G, for example, a new technology of internet and of communication. So you're giving your 1 hour talk about that. Now you could do it as a YouTube video and people would take notes. That's all they could do. But if it was your digital twin doing it, not only would it deliver exactly the same stuff that you recorded, but it would be open to microphones that could ask it questions, and a chat bot would respond as best it could to the questions. It would arrest the video at that point, and it would answer the question about whether 5G is safe, or whether what the reach of it is. It would be able to answer obvious questions, maybe not the most complicated ones, but that would mean it's better than the YouTube video because it's actually responding to what the audience wants personally and at that moment.
Yeah. So again, right now, the digital twins, a lot right now, from a human perspective, is where it's reading off a script. But the next level is to actually add a chat box to it, bot to it, and you know, like for instance, like Google Mia, it has a chat bot that, you know, if people give a rating, like if you know,
Okay.
So how likely are you a human, right?
Okay.
And the average human gets a rating of 86%.
Okay.
The average chat box has a rating of 79%.
Yeah. I am interested that we distinguish between the ability to change the presentation style and appearance of you. You could say, I know my audience is mostly in Baltimore, and I know that this particular audience would be more comfortable with a black presenter. So I want my chatbot for that event to be a black person. So you could change the appearance. That's quite apart from interaction. That's simply your presentation. So that's an advantage of a digital twin, is that it can be suited to the audience. The interaction is very valuable too, but the type of presentation, the appearance, that's significant.
Yeah, though it's, you know, there's a risk of cultural inappropriation.
Oh, sure. All I'm pointing out is
caution against that. That's why, for me personally, like when I go into my avatar, I try to make my avatar look like myself to some extent. I mean, that's just me, but I know other people like this. My one friend, her son, who's 15 years old, he becomes a female and he does this. You know, he changes, you know, however he wants. So,
I'm not judging. I'm just showing the huge importance of presentation. Because if you're, for example, on a television advert wanting to appeal to young girls, you won't have a big white guy presenting to them. You'll get another young girl. If you're trying to sell cigarettes,
well, it's not good to sell cigarettes.
Well, I'm saying this is what the tobacco industry does. I've learned about advertising. What I'm saying is, one of the principles of advertising is you make the presenter appear like the target audience that you're approaching, because it'll draw their attention. The viewer says, oh, that person's like me. It's a girl. Maybe it's not cigarettes. Maybe it's a kind of hairdo. But what I'm saying, go ahead.
The point is, when I go into like alt space, you know, when I you know, and I hear people's voices, and when I hear who I think is younger than 18, you know, I treat them and with, you know, I try to treat them as if I'm a teacher.
Right.
I'm being very careful what I say to them.
Right.
Because there's all kinds of laws that you don't definitely want to say the wrong thing to
Yeah.
someone. And so you don't want a 40-year-old acting like they're 15 to another 15-year-old. I think that's very.
It's a basket of snakes, whatever you do. But it is a significant aspect of our discussion that we're talking about the presentation options from a digital twin. Never mind the interactive ability, but the actual presentation. You can change the appearance, the voice.
Right. No, I understand
size,
that. Though I guess the thing is once you change the appearance, that's no longer a digital twin of Doug.
Why not? Why not?
Well, because you're a twin I guess in my definition of a twin is taking all the characteristics of who Doug is from a human perspective and digitizing that. So
that's limiting it hugely, Doug.
Well, then it's no, it's you're creating a new entity. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but it's not a twin of.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm struggling now to distinguish between what you're calling strictly a digital twin. That is a replica, a close replica, and it's a good word. Twin. I am a twin. I used to have a twin. So a twin is an excellent word for an close possible replica. But I'm also very interested in what would you call it? Simulations.
Right. I mean, you can simulate, and maybe they
proxies.
Yeah. I mean, they could have all the information of who I am.
Yeah. Okay. So we got two terms here. We got digital twin, and we got digital proxy, which is a different thing. That's useful terminology, right?
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, bottom line is, the question is when will, when will there be a digital twin that you can take a script that you write and they can't tell the difference. Someone watching me, like my mom, my brother, couldn't tell the difference between it being me or my digital twin, right? And then the question is, when can I have an interaction, right? When I can, we actually start talking, and I'm talking. My digital twin is talking to my brother, and where he won't notice that he's not talking to the physical Doug, he's talking to the digital Doug.
So I think the presentation has been achieved. In other words, you can get voice morphing and face morphing where they would not know that it was not you talking. They could get me to type. I could dictate or type out, a piece of literature, and ask your digital twin to say that to your family, and I guarantee that they would not be able to be sure whether it was you or not.
Well, so you were at
the chatbot side of it's another story. They'd ask you a question and say, "What did you and I do when we're sitting on that farm fence with those stones?" And the chatbot wouldn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so you were on Abundance 360, right? You went to the summit, right? You attended?
I didn't. No.
Oh, you didn't? Have you gone online and watched any of the content?
I can't remember whether I've seen stuff. I can't remember whether I've seen stuff. I haven't been very active. I've been on holiday for a few months.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Peter had he had a digital twin. And I personally thought that the technology actually kind of went backwards from a year ago.
Yeah.
I could tell the difference. I could definitely say, oh, this is not, this is not Peter. This is a digital representation.
Yeah. Okay.
And
well, I guess I'm saying I have seen digital twins that side by side with the real thing, like Obama, for example. And unless you were
Obama one too, and it looks fake to me.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I'd say we're close to it. I'd say we're very close to the representation, not the interaction, but we're very, very close to the fidelity of representation that is indistinguishable from the real thing. We're very close to that with voice and with physiognomy, the face and all those things. Because AI is into gait, facial recognition, facial animation, and voice morphing. It's getting pretty good.
No, like take the President Obama case.
Yeah.
When I watched the deep fakes of President Obama, you know, one is it just feels like slightly off, you know, just in the facial expressions and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's that part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But the other one is, you know, I have a kind of a, you know, I've listened to enough of President Obama's speeches. I'm very inspired by him, by the way. I mean, I think he's a very good public speaker.
Right.
And, you know, when I see some deep fakes of his
Yeah,
that are off character,
yeah,
you know, it's like, okay, yeah, this is off character. This is a fake, right? So, you know, the question is, you know, when we score, you know, how likely is this real Doug than digital Doug? There's a, you know, the mannerisms, right?
yeah.
Though, you know, like sometimes when we're with friends, you know, and the friend is like, you know, even in real life, you know, in the physical world, you're like, oh, is something wrong with you because you're just not acting yourself, right?
Right, right, right.
Um,
But
there's
why is this so important? To me, this isn't so important. I guess it's important in the security aspect, in that you can misrepresent yourself. That's the only importance. Mainly, like if you're listening to Doug talking about 5G, it's good enough that it looks more or less like him, can see his facial expressions when he's pleased with something or curious about something, fearful about something. I don't care whether it's the real you or not. If I want to learn about 5G, I'm very happy to have that representation of Doug. And also, of course, I'd really like it if also I could have a chatbot attached that would answer questions that I delivered to that digital twin. It's only really the security aspect of digital twinning that is so
yeah.
important.
Well, okay, then let's go to the security aspect because, you know, one, and I think, and we discussed this in the past, that, you know, as in order for me to get my digital twin to represent, be as close to me as possible, right?
Yeah.
It would have to know, you know, like, again, going back to this 100 million things someone knows, um, you know, how many, if it knows everything about me, like I couldn't, if I couldn't distinguish myself, who I, you know, this digital twin that Doug to against me, because it knows everything I know.
I do not think they will ever, unless they have neurological scanning of your brain and all your experience, until then, they will not be able to beat the questioning like, what did I say to you sitting on the fence post about the stones in Otago?
Yeah, though it was interesting. I was
You
talking to
have
my
no
sister.
idea what I'm talking about. So,
Yeah,
unless you've known all my memory experiences, which are trillions of things,
yeah. Like I
you know,
said,
I
100
mean, you
million facts,
say, I mean, you said a person can only know how many billion, what did you say?
100 million things is what
I don't, it's way more than that. Because, for example, I could say, tell me about exactly where the stones were with reference to that post. So that's one of the things I know. But I mean, you can't
Yeah, I don't
number
know
the things I
what
know.
you're talking about. You know,
You know what
I'm
I'm saying?
trying to correlate it. Though, you know, like would a close friend of you know that fact?
They won't know. They won't know because only you and I were sitting on that farm fence at that time, and I could say, "What did I say to you?" and "What did it mean to you?" So that you see what I'm saying. You can't put a number of on the things that a person knows because there's
Uh-huh.
innuendo, there's meanings, there's significance. It's an infinite number of things, and that's how I could identify whether it's really you, Doug. Depends how well I know you. If you're my
Uh-huh.
brother, I would know more. But even now, I could ask you questions that no computer would ever think I'd realized or thought about you or seen you do or anything like that. It could not know that. So anyway, I'm just saying it shouldn't be
Well,
too
there's
hard.
so like if you think about it, there's a half a billion or half a million minutes in a year. So, you know, if you could so the one thing is so there's this concept of digital twin where you actually have a shadowing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
like up
yeah,
until this point in your life,
yeah, yeah,
you don't, but like what we're being recorded right now,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
your digital twin has access to this information. They can hear this conversation
Okay.
and remember it probably better than you can remember it, right?
Not well.
I
I
mean,
guess all I'm saying is right now in this room here, there's a
yeah,
billion things. In this room right here, right now, there's a billion things. And there's more than a
well,
billion. There's a million things. There's relationships
there's
between all those things
atoms,
as
but
well.
there's spatial stuff, but I mean, maybe there's 100 things in this room, the room I'm sitting in, but of that.
I guess what I'm saying is it's an infinite number of things in this room. Their relationship to each other, the memories I have about them. There's an unlimited number of things related to this room that I'm surrounded by now. No system in the world, even this brain, well, this brain contains some of them, but I'm just saying I don't think you can put a number like that on the number of things.
But if I ask you to go outside your room and ask you name 5 things in the room, it may be hard for you to do that. Well, you probably
it might be, but all I'm saying is the variety of things in this room that could be addressed and named and discussed is infinite.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay.
Probably, it would be pretty. I mean, physical objects. There's probably 100 things in your room.
But I mean, for example, it's not visible, but underneath this keyboard, there's a label. I know it's there.
But you have no clue of what's in there.
All I'm saying is, I'm just saying that's an example of something which is not visible to the system that's recording me. I'm just saying.
It's not visible to you. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, we're wasting time here. But anyway, I think authentication in that sort of way shouldn't be too hard. I think. Let's get on to more uses. We talk about having a digital twin to be able to make a presentation in your absence while you're having a barbecue, and also have a chat bot that can answer questions from the audience. Hooray, hooray. They've multiplied Doug Hohulin. How do you pronounce your name?
Hohulin rhymes with no fool.
Okay, Hohulin. Okay, so that's cloned Doug Hohulin.
Yeah.
An infinite number of times for anyone who wants to do it, and extremely cheaply. Once it's been done, it can be put into any computer.
It's easier to do multiple times digitally. Yes.
Yeah. So that's
very handy. Lots of Dougs, that's a scary thing.
So it's a really good kind of expert system. I used to build expert systems in AI, and this is a new form of it.
Right.
And so it's very useful to be able to clone people. You can put an eye surgeon into Kasese, Uganda, who you'd never afford. He hasn't got the time to go there, and you can get him to operate free, or you can get him to guide a local nurse to do things that will restore sight to many people. You could do that. So cloning people is hugely beneficial, same as expert systems were. So cloning people is probably one of the highest value uses of a digital twin, cloning the usefulness of individuals, their expertise, and distributing it around the world. For example, you might be, let's say that you were one of the very best presenters about 5G, because you speak clearly, you know your stuff. Now, so we could put you, one of the best presenters, into a digital twin, and that would mean everyone in the world could have you at either no cost or cheap, and you could still make millions of dollars out of it.
Yeah, but let's go back to your case of the doctor in again in Africa, that we need to have a doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I would call it a digital. I wouldn't call it a digital twin. What it's more like is these are expert systems, and like a let's say an eye doctor. What in fact Ray Kurzweil says the average expert knows 100,000 things of something like it. So an eye doctor would know 100,000 things. So you would digitize, those algorithms and that information on how to for those 100,000 things.
Yeah.
Now, is there value to have like let's say I was an eye doctor? Would there be value to have that expert system also have the personality of Dr. Doug?
Again, see, because I had a background in technical writing and a bit of creative writing too, semantics is very important to me. So when you say personality, my use of the word personality will include personal habits of dexterity, not just whether he feels about this, feels about that, but the way that he or she uses does such suturing. That's particular to them. They like to do especially slow, careful and close together. Other doctors don't bother, but this particular, that's part of their personality. That's how they are.
Well, and like different people, like I would prefer a doctor, I care more about their competency. When my mom, when she was reading the reviews, she's going to have back surgery.
Yeah.
you know, she was like, oh, the doctor has good bedside manner. Well, it's like, you know, for me, it's like, well, that's kind of nice, but I'd much rather make sure that they well qualified and they don't
Right.
make any mistakes,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
So, but you know, at the same time, I mean, if I had a doctor that was rude to me, you know, no matter if they were the
Yeah.
best surgeon possible, I wouldn't work
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's implications of not caring.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right.
But
So,
you know, like for authors, like on books, right? You know,
yeah.
we could have a bot that would write a book. You know, they're already AI is already writing
Yeah,
books.
GP3. I've signed up for that. I said, please let me be one of the first people to use GP3. I'll become a world famous author.
Right. Though the question is like you know, I try to read a book a week, and there's certain authors you know, if they write a book, I want to read that book, right?
Right.
I like their style, I like
Yeah.
the information they provide.
Yeah.
So do we get a digital twin that writes in the style of that author?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
You
know,
can. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
you
yeah.
can.
So that's kind of the, you know, that's the value of a digital twin. It's like, say, give me a book, and maybe it's I want the author hasn't written this book, and hey, I want to learn about Germany, but in the style of Byron Reese, right?
Right.
You know,
Right.
or whatever. That's one of my
Yeah. Yeah.
favorite authors.
Yeah. Doug, we are now 3 minutes before time. I'm quite happy to keep going.
Yeah, I got about 15 more minutes, and then
All
we
right.
can
Okay.
probably.
Okay. So that
But
brings
anyway,
up,
so that's the, you know, digital twin could do in the style of an author or a style of a musician
yeah.
or, you know, a style of
Yeah.
an artist, you
Yeah.
know.
Right. Right. I mean, but yeah, I mean, AI is like that. In general, AI looks at a huge collection of data and then derives rules from that and rules about those rules and rules about those rules and those rules. So that's where
Yeah,
you get your style from of that author. You know, Peter de Vries, you say he likes to use good metaphors and he's humorous. So the AI presumably can read all of Peter de Vries' books and all his emails and all his Facebook posts and get a pretty good set of rules about his personality, what metaphors he would use, and
right.
then write in that style. So that's feasible. And it raises the question, by the way, is, although sometimes you'd want that, sometimes you wouldn't. Imagine saying to the builder of the book, I like Peter de Vries, but I just don't want so much of that slapstick humor. So get rid of that bit. And
Yeah, yeah. This is what I don't like about this author,
yeah.
but this is what I do like.
And same thing with the doctor doing surgery in Kasisi. You might say, I really like the style of his movement and the way he does those surgical procedures, but we haven't got time to do the close suturing that he does. So we want to get Dr. von Slavensvan's dexterity techniques for the suturing of the eye as part of that digital identity. We're not going to call it that doctor's name. We're going to call it proxy 2185. But it's going to have a mixture of personalities with the best of each of those to do the eye surgery in Kasisi, Uganda. So anyway, so this is digital twins. You think of digital twins. We did also talk about digital twins being buildings and other things.
Right. Yeah. It's it's a digital representation of a physical object.
It's an exact representation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, you know, on Wednesday nights at the book club, we're going through the spatial web right now. I don't know if you can enjoy this, but you're sure welcome to.
Thank you. Yeah, I got out of AD a bit because I've spent hundreds of hours struggling to maintain the democracy of the USA against an attack that pretty much ended when Biden got elected. And after that, I found myself exhausted and not wanting much intellectual stimulus and variety and all that. I just wanted to weed the garden, breathe deeply, eat food and do that. So that's why I've been out of AD for a while. I might turn up for the book club. I found also that the book club and other AD events were too theoretical and not practical enough. I'm a bit of a dilemma between how practical I want to be at 72 and how much I want to theorize. But I get tired of talk fests that don't actually equip me with something I can use and play with and work with. So that was another thing as well. There's a lot of
Okay, well,
theory.
actually, Micah last week, he gave a 10-minute talk on blockchain and cryptocurrency. So you probably would have liked that part.
Okay, talked about what part of it?
Cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah, and what we do is we're actually changed the format. So we're
okay,
going to do more breakout sessions where we can interact, like,
yeah, yeah.
four
Yeah,
people.
I
So
think that
more time to talk to each other.
I like Elon Musk's idea of no more than 6 people in the discussion. And
Right. And that's the idea. It's that we break out into
right,
small.
right. And again, rather than theorizing about things, actually doing stuff, like saying, I'm doing this, I'd like to have that. Can somebody tell me how to do this? Rather than, wow, you can do that, and they're going that way. Obviously, I love following the arrival of new technology, but I found maybe it's newbies arriving and so on. And I wasn't gaining a lot to equip me in my life to do things.
Oh, okay.
So that
Okay.
those were the reasons I live,
Okay. Anyway, you're sure welcome if you ever want to join back up.
Now,
And
are you on the subject, since we haven't got a lot of time, on the subject of digital twins, what are you doing to build one? Are you doing anything, and what's the time and money involved in doing it?
well, like I said, I've actually talked to Hour One and to what is it, Soul Machine. Because there's one concept of a possible digital twin of a football player in Kansas City, so that they can work with youth in a STEM program, in science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah.
And so they're building a STEM building so kids in the inner city, high school students, can hang out and get encouraged to study math and science and technology, the STEM program.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, what if we get a digital twin of a football player to help, encourage these students to get involved in this. So that's my idea. Like I said, I've talked to, these two companies. We'll see if anything happens.
There's one thing I'm very uneasy about, ever since Peter Diamandis started to get into digital twinning,
right,
is the backfire it can have, the backlash that can happen when the experiencer of the digital twin knows that it's a fraud and that it does not, in fact, care for them the way the real person does.
Yeah. But we can have that in the physical world too. That you're talking to someone and you realize that they're a fraud, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. If you have a conference and let's say that Doug Hohulin agrees to give a talk to 5,000 people, either online or real world, about 5G, and you send your assistant. They wanted Doug. They didn't want the assistant. They wanted Doug.
Right.
They like you. They've heard you lots of times, and they know you know more and can answer better questions. But you sent your assistant. Even if it's a good assistant, it means well. It's not you. So I'm just saying, there's that risk. That's a visceral verification.
That's a fact. Yeah.
I noticed Peter has changed his digital twin image to be a blue one, which is good. It helps because it means that it's not really him. But I would be very careful about showing. I would be very careful to distinguish clearly between the real me and my proxy.
Yeah, well, the thing is it's talking about synthetic characters.
Yeah.
Where, like right now, if you call into a help desk, this person is reading off a script.
Yeah.
Right. This is what you do, and like your problem may be 5 pages into the script, but it's going to take you an hour before you get to that point, and so the question is how can you get paid? And that's why we don't like calling to help desk, because sometimes it can
I suppose what I'm saying is, I think we're better to use proxies rather than digital twins. I think, just off the cuff right now, I think maybe it's important to protect and preserve and revere and nourish and what's the word? Care for our real identity.
Right. Actually, they're calling them synthetic characters. So rather than calling it proxy, the term people are the term of art is synthetic characters.
Yeah, okay. I think that the word digital twin may become a swear word because because of the allergy people have for false presentation of an individual.
I mean, I think people are fine with a digital twin of a building because it's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
physical
yeah, 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 yeah,
of a
yeah.
building.
Yeah, that's
Of an
yeah,
object, a digital
yeah,
twin is fine.
yeah. Fully
Question
agree.
is, we have a
Fully,
digital twin of a
fully
of a
agree.
human, right?
So, do you think you will be using a digital twin?
It'd be interesting to see how useful it will be.
My
Um,
guess is you're better to create a digital. What did I say? Proxy. My guess is you're better right from the start. This is my guess. You can do what you like, but I'm saying you're probably better to call it a proxy and name it something different from you. Because I'm saying viscerally, I think you're safer and better off
uh-huh.
keeping it very separate from you, so that the real you, gains even more authenticity because it is the only unique, real, precious one. The other one is a knockoff of it. So I'd say don't even call it Doug. Call it, I don't know, something else. Helper
Okay.
or, I don't know, 5G rep or something like that. 5G
Okay.
helper or educator or things.
Well, I mean, right now it's calling them bots, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They're a
yeah, yeah,
bot, you
yeah.
know. And like I said, now the term of art is called synthetic
Yeah.
character,
Now,
and so you have the synthetic
yeah,
character of a representation of Doug or whoever, right?
right. Now, one thing we have to recognize too is that when we die, there we're stuck with the only available version of you is the digital twin. So if you
Right.
haven't built one, you lose that. And I think a lot of people would like to have the digital twin. I'm not sure. I've sort of mixed feelings about that.
Well, yeah. In fact, well, there's people who, they have recordings of their loved
Yeah,
ones, and
I've seen those. I've seen a Japanese mother, I think, interacting with her dead child,
yeah,
and I had mixed feelings about that. It's wonderful in a way. In fact, I've seen it even in a sci-fi movie years ago called I can't remember, but anyways, a friend who was traveling through outer space was
yeah,
grieving at the loss of his buddy, and the buddy he called up his buddy from a holograph machine, and was able to interact with him. Now that would be heart-rending to do, and I'm not sure it's good therapy. Maybe it is, maybe it doesn't. It'll be good in some ways and terrible in others.
yeah.
A lot of
Well,
dilemmas.
it's probably going to be happening. I mean, because
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
and the better it gets to be a representation of the dead
Right,
loved one,
right.
um,
And no doubt we'll have combos as well. There'll
that
be a
person.
combo of Doug with Charlie Evans, who's also knows 5G really well, but knows other stuff. And you
Uh-huh.
decide it's not going to be Doug, and it's going to be a mixture of you and him, and it's going to have, it's going to have red hair, and it's going to be short, and it's going to go on stage. It's going to carry half of what you are about 5G and half of what your friend is. So that's going to be a separate proxy, but it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, yeah. What happens, like at the end of this every conversation, if you'd rate it from 1 to 100, how well did you enjoy it? And then when you have a digital twin, and let's say your digital twin actually, someone would rather talk to your digital twin than they would rather talk to you, right?
Right, right, right. I mean, by the way,
That's more
would you
interesting.
rather, I've thought about this, would you rather the TV news was delivered by a person who was evidently not real, or would you rather watch the uncomfortable fidgeting and stuff of a human being? Because I watch them and I pity them sometimes. The slightest thing they do is going to get bad reviews from somebody in a bad mood. And I'm
Right.
wondering whether we're going to see the news delivered by digital proxies instead. Nothing will be perfect, but I think that you could get some fabulously suitable digital twins to deliver the news.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why you have good anchors that can read very well, can have a very positive
Yeah,
personality. Of course, I mean actors. That's why we want certain
and
actors.
that'd be cheaper too.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing about synthetic characters. In 5 years, you will not have any extras in movies. Every
Yeah, yeah,
extra
yeah. Right, right.
will take a synthetic character.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's coming. Your call deaths are all going to be digital, as synthetic characters as well. By the way, that's a $200 billion industry. So all these jobs of people doing call centers is probably going to go away.
Yeah. You know, one thing I'd really like AI to do for me at free or very low cost is to create for me digital proxies of people who, you know, like I Do Not Exist, you know, that website where they create artificial faces for you.
Right.
They say it doesn't exist. I don't think they've checked the whole web, because I'm pretty sure that sometimes they'd say there is a guy that looks like that. But anyway, I would like to have digital avatars created at snap of my finger for a few cents, and then get them to do scripts and movies and stuff like that. I would love to do that. I'd like to, for example, do interviews with one. I would give it a script and then I would interact with it. It would ask me questions and make comments and stuff like that. And I would love to do that sort of stuff, as well as do it like with humans like you.
Yeah, it's going to be the roaring 20s. It will be an interesting time in these 20s on how do you navigate the physical world, the digital world. You know, and because of COVID, everything got locked down.
Yeah, right. Now, COVID's accelerating all of this stuff, I think.
Exactly, and then with AI, more AI technology, more communication technology, all is going to change. So,
I am not yet using AI in any significant way. I'm using it subliminally in the background, obviously, but I have not started to deploy some of the tools that I know of. I'm just gathering a list of them. I haven't done much, but I'm kind of eager to do that.
Yeah, you know, I don't use the automation as much as I should myself.
I haven't been in VR for a while. I'll probably go in again tomorrow just to brush up on it. And I have to say, there's been consolidation. Being away from it from a week or two is wonderful for your mind. You really make realization.
I like going out and seeing people. I want to, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
online.
yeah. I know what you mean. That has been accentuated for me. Being away from VR, it's been a relief in a way. It's been great. New Zealand's been in sunshine, and it's great we can get out. But it's just, when I look back at VR now, it's not as attractive as it was. It was fascinating and wonderful, and I had tremendous experiences in there. And I will be going back in, but certainly I feel that contrast between physical and virtual. Anyway, in our next discussion, maybe we could have a talk about the question of aging and how you have purpose in life, how you put carrots in front of your nose as you age, instead of saying, well, I'm 72 now, I'm going to sit on the couch, I've earned my money, I've got a house paid off, I don't have to do anything, I don't want to have to rush around, I don't have to answer to people, I don't want to have to achieve things and deal with hassles. As contrast with, well, you're going to live to at least 110, 120, 150 or 1,000, then but I say, well, you're too tired, you're 72. Oh, we'll fix that. We'll give you plenty of energy. We'll bring your memory back with cavitation caused by ultrasound by the Australian scientists. So your hippocampus and your memory will be fine. You'll have energy, you'll have memory. Your body won't be so tired. Now you're talking about sitting on the couch. That kind of a person doesn't want to sit on the couch. So we've got to talk about that maybe the next time we talk.
Okay. We'll plan on the next few weeks. We'll do that. Well, it's great talking to you, Bruce.
Great to talk, Doug. All right. Bye for now.
You're doing well. Take care.